30 years, for 300 years in a community like this one. But right now, we're not the government, and I appreciate you calling out the fact that we don't have the power to make anything happen right now. We have the power to put our body and our soul and our fight and our words and our heart into the struggle. And that's what we do.
So I actually think we can do something, respected leader. I'll give you an example. This is a current example. You know Bill S2, the second generation cutoff, right? The Liberals are going to vote against it. They've been the only party, in fact, that are voting against the Senate amendments that finally got rid of the second generation cutoff. Jenny Kwan, who's the MP for Vancouver East, and I worked with a committee of women at the UN level to do a report calling out the government to finally get rid of the second generation cutoff. That came out like a day ago. You know, we weren't an official party status, or we in the last election, even though we were the fourth party, in terms of the advancement of Indigenous rights, the bill C-15 was brought forward by my partner Romeo Saganash to confirm the application of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples into Canadian law. We have a legal tool because of the NDP to push back against C-5. With only 5 members, we were the party that pushed against the government on C-5, not because of us. It's because of how we use our platform, right? Like, for example, I had a press conference last week with women's organizations. I have the mic. I have access to the House of Commons. If you want to have a press conference in the House of Commons calling on the federal government and their failure to uphold your land claim settlement, I'll introduce you and I'll hand you the mic. Because it's not about, like, we're pretty irrelevant. You know, I think a lot of politicians are really full of themselves. We're actually quite irrelevant. And here is why. Our power comes from the movement of people. I was one of the organizers in Idle No More, right? Why was that powerful? Why did we push against Harper? Carney's way worse than Harper, by the way. Like, I'm surprised he's not getting more pushback. He's way worse than Harper on a number of fronts. Why? It was the movement of people that pushed against the people in power, and there's nothing more that people want in Ottawa than to protect their power and privilege. And when their power and privilege is under threat, they start listening. And that's how I've used my platform. That's why, why I said at the beginning, I don't think it's about being a minister. I don't think I would ever want to be a minister. It's how you use your platform. We need more New Democrats. Don't get me wrong, I'm a New Democrat. I'm First Nations and I vote. But it's a very powerful platform to lift up voices. Right now I'm working on adding to the criminal code this section where they have Holocaust denial, residential school denialism as a form of incitement of hate. And I'm working across the way with Liberal members to say, take it as a government bill. Like, I don't need credit for it. I just want to make sure my partner, my family that's still with us, my community, my relatives, all of us can be free of dignity or be free of hate and live in dignity, security, and safety. So we have a lot of power collectively. And It does make a difference. I mean, sometimes Indigenous people get elected and they start towing party line and it's a wash. So I don't think it's just about electing Indigenous people, to be honest. I think it makes a difference, but it's how you use your platform. But some of us go in there, we're taught teachings from our communities. Some of us are elected and we were taught in ceremonies about collective leadership and the importance when you're a leader, and your chief, you emulated that today, that you listen to the community, and your responsibility is to bring that story out. And that's how I and my other colleagues in the NDP are leading. So it's not even about getting your vote, it's about use us and our platform in the way that you feel so that we can tell your story, especially about the land claims. Yeah, so thanks.
So while I'm getting my thoughts on what I want to say, I'll move up to the front so I can face everyone and look at them when I talk. There's no doubt that you're seasoned politicians, the way you talk. But I think the crowd came here to listen about how we could advance the 1907 claim that everybody's looking forward to. Look at that table. Look at the tables. Any table, there's seniors on there that are waiting for this 1907 claim, and it lasts much longer. They're not going to be here. We lost a pile of people already. The seniors that fought for this for the last, I heard 30 years, it's 55 years from the first time I first started hearing about it. It's only the last 30 years where there's been an active push for the 1907 claim. In the last 3 years, the wheel's been spinning. We haven't went anywhere. We're running out of time. The people are running out of time. Our First Nations running out of time. This hall was mentioned, built in the 1940s. We desperately need facilities here. We desperately need capital to advance our First Nation. With the amount that was leaked on the payment of 1907 claim, that would put Cowessess on some good wheels, some good feet moving forward. We have a vast areas of good agriculture farmland. We're trying to farm. We're trying real hard to farm now. One of the first, only successful farms at 4C Farms and Ranch in the country, if not southern Saskatchewan, all of Saskatchewan. We're recognized far and wide, but we can't get to where we should get to. We need that capital from the claims money to move ahead, to move forward, to become a successful First Nation, a wealthy First Nation. We need the capital produced from the lands to make our people wealthy, to have a better lifestyle. And we're not going anywhere, you know. The people here, look at the elders here. They want to hear about how you could help us on the 1907 claim. I'm hearing a lot of political talk, which is what you are. I guess that's why we're hearing that, you know. But we really want to hear, the people want to hear how you could advance our 1907 claim. You want us to tell you the story on 1907 claim? We can't tell that to you in half an hour. It would take a few days to read the history of it, like I've read it. I've heard it from 1960s. I've heard how it came about. You're not going to hear about it in 2 hours here, when we're late starting, especially. You know, we need action. We need action from people in Ottawa that have seats. We need campaigners. We need people that can help us push the claim forward. And it's getting so that the people are not going to take less than that. They need answers. They need active answers instead of holding back and wheels spinning. We're getting to the end of it, and the people here are getting sick and tired of waiting. Most of them won't get up and speak, but I'm telling you, they're getting sick and tired of waiting, and there's going to be a change pretty quick if it don't happen. We need some action. We need something to happen. Thank you.
Good afternoon. It's nice to see the interest here. I sort of had the same question as Roberta here about, what can you do for us? Just when you mentioned you want to tell our story, and I think that's up to us if we want to be put all over the news in Regina and in papers and on TV. We're here telling our stories, or some of them will tell their stories. What I guess my question is again, what are you here for? I'm sitting on my fourth chief, and I hear it every chief. The 07, we have to settle the 07. And this is my when this one's over, be 26 years, and all I hear is the 07. Let's settle the 07. Let's settle the cows and plows. So to me, it's just okay, we'll say something, but stay back there. So me too, I'm kind of thinking, well, what can NDP do for us? Like when the chief texted me, sorry, chief, but we have a meeting with NDP on the 13th, I told her straight out, send me a Liberal. What's NDP gonna do for me? And that's how I think, You said you're sitting on 5 seats. They're sitting on, 130 some, something like that. So what are you going to do, speak up and they'll just say, hey, boys, sit down. Where are we? I mean, what are you here for? And again, I'm not much of a camera guy, so that's why I say it's up to us. Maybe you should take a little vote before this is over, and do you want to be plastered around on the newspapers or on TV at 6 o'clock news, because we met with the First Nation, You know what I mean, Chief? Don't use us for a NDP platform, as Cowessess First Nation. We're one people out here, so with that, thank you for being here and listening. And all these people here, 55 and over, all, I always talk to the chief about us flatlining. Well, I'm at that age too, this is going to be over before I see it. And like I said, every chief, my fourth chief, and it's always the 07, the cows and plows, So it's just a kind of a song right now, So hopefully you could do something for us. Maybe you should cross the... No, I'm just joking. Just joking, buddy.
I have an idea, though.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening.
Hi. Were you on Much Music? Okay, just dating myself. Yeah, we need our claims so we can pay for gas. Just kidding, that was a joke. I guess if there's anything I could suggest is we were told by the chief that the claim is sitting on Carney's desk, so maybe go to Michael Saby at the Privy Council office and just mention that we're anxious to have this claim done. But I mean, if it's a problem in process, then go to the office of the Auditor General and find out what the holdup there is, so that maybe we can actually help that process. I know there's no standing committee separate that addresses specific claims, but I think Indian and Northern Affairs has a standing committee, and then the Senate has a standing committee on Indian Affairs. Just work your way back, I suppose, is what I could suggest. But just an update and a status report, maybe to the chief, so that we can actually know where we're standing with the claim, and because we're as I'm not going to say what's already been said, but we really want this claim completed and taken across the finish line. And if that's how you can help, that's what I'm asking you to do.
Mr. Lewis, thank you for coming to our community. My first question would be, there's 7 other First Nations with high value claims, And are you going to visit them too? And what do you bring to those communities that will help them to believe that you're going to help them get where we need to go?
Okay.
I think Savannah should talk to it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So just so you know, my nation, there's the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota claim. So I'm also waiting for a settlement. Like, you know, so that like I'm part of the pro. So the spring economic statement came out. The Liberal government has not budgeted. They've reduced the amount in the budget to resolve claims. That's the reality. No, I'm not going to cross the floor. But when I said you can have the mic, and I agree with you, it's your story to tell. It's not our story to tell. I literally do give the mic. We can have, for example, a conference in the press gallery. We can have media events in front of the house, in the lobby. It's called the lobby, right outside the house. And leadership from your nation and elders and whoever you want to bring can actually come to Ottawa and have a press conference. I've done that several times. The only way things happen in Ottawa is it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. That's how it is. And the Liberals, Amnesty International, in fact, confirmed how much the current government is backsliding on Indigenous rights and claim settlements, quite frankly. That's where opposition comes in. Like, that's why opposition is so important, because the only time government does anything, because we're not the government, is when they feel the political pressure, when they feel their power and privilege is under threat. And if you're not drawing attention to it, they're not going to pay attention to it. That's just how it works there. I don't agree with it, but I know that from experience. I think in some ways opposition is actually more powerful than being a minister, in the way that when you're a minister, you have to do what they call toe party line. And if you don't toe party line, you lose your job. You get kicked out of the ministry. So it's harder to push. For us, with our 5 seats, for example, with Bill C-5, with just our seats, we actually separated that bill. We managed to use kind of procedural games to split the bill in half so that we could support interprovincial trade, but we could go after them on the environmental assessment standards and also the infringement of Indigenous rights and worker safety in Bill C-5. It was the NDP that did that in this Parliament. So I'm not over-promising, but I can tell you what we can do, and I think I will give you the mic. I will let you and make arrangements with you to come to Ottawa if that's what you choose, to tell your story to the press. And I also want to validate how Indigenous people are used all the time for political reasons, and then nothing happens. Like, that is so true. That is a reality that is just so true. But use my platform. You have a story, I have a platform in the House, and it's the people's platform. So that's what we can offer. And I think you've followed me a little bit. I've done that quite a lot. So thanks very much. And Savannah, we'll talk about the tour and other claims.
Hi, my name is Savannah. I actually grew up in Stockholm, so it's really nice to be home. I always feel great in the valley. I'm with Avi. I work in Avi's office as his chief of staff. I was his campaign manager. So to answer, I think what I'm hearing some eagerness towards is like, okay, what is the practical, tangible things that will happen and come out of this tour? So this is the first of the nations that are impacted by this particular land settlement hang-up that we'll be visiting. I reached out to the folks too that got a hold of us through Chief Bowden's letters. So we do plan to have meetings and conversations with the rest of the communities that are impacted by this particular hang-up. And one of the things that we hoped to kind of do well here is, collect, of course, the advocacy asks from the community and make sure that we understand fully what the communities that are impacted are hoping for, for us, not just as a party, but in government as well, to push for. So we'll meet with the rest of the nations that are impacted as well. And then there's a couple of different options, and we're kind of exploring in terms of parliamentary procedure and what are the actual avenues for impact. So there's a couple things that come up really immediately. There's opposition days when we can put forward private members' bills. Leah's critic is in her critic portfolio, could put forward a private members' bill. And then there's also parliamentary petitions, and there's also a number of different sort of procedural ways we can shine a light on this. But of course, with the permission of the community, making sure that one of the things that Avi has a lot of right now is attention. So I think that when we're trying to formulate a path forward for political pressure, as a new leader, especially one that comes from a background in journalism, a lot of the media is hoping to talk to Avi. So we aren't going to say anything without the permission of the community, of course, but building up some political pressure through shining a light on this issue in media interviews, making sure that the lines that we run through Avi are approved and handed over by the community, and then making sure that there's opportunities too, and pressuring for folks to come out, for the media to come here and maybe do a profile story, or for us to do an explainer video. So Avi's got a ton of attention right now, and a ton of people are watching what he's doing. So having the opportunity for us to leverage that attention into actual pressure on the government that can move these things forward, that's really what we can offer today. And this is just the first stop, but we'll be meeting with the other communities to answer your question directly, to make sure that we're looking at this holistically across the country. It's not just an issue in Cowessess, it's an issue across the country. And so building up that kind of coalition pressure point, that's a more tactical and tangible sort of outcome from this meeting that we can offer back. So that's what we plan to do. And we are here to just sort of talk about what that might be able to look like and what you'd like it to look like. So hope that helps.
Hello, hello. Okay. My question is, you sent an invite to use your leadership in the House. When do you guys go back into cabinet? When's your guys' next meeting to be on? When will you take your seat as the representative for NDP in the House of Commons to speak to all the other leaders?
Okay, it's on.
Do you think it's on? I don't know. Is it on?
So we have another week out of the House, and then the next week will be, the 25th, we'll be back in the House. And we'll be sitting there. So there's a couple of ways we could do it. If you are interested in coming down, we'll be back in a week. We could do it then, or we could wait until the fall. This is my thinking around it. If we do it before the summer, we're almost close to breaking for the summer, so it's like a story, and then the pressure will be off, right? Because there'll be nobody sitting in Ottawa. But if we organize something in the fall, potentially, we can start in the fall, and then we can just keep the pressure going while we're sitting in the House. The petition that Savannah brought up, you can actually work with my office, with Avi's office, and we can put together a parliamentary petition. The more signatures, the better. But I think, like, with all the communities that are impacted with the land claims and the fact that Carney's spring economic statement indicates that he has not budgeted to settle claims, impacted nations can actually work together and collect signatures. After 500 signatures, I can present that petition in the House. The other thing that I can do is negotiate spots on committee studies. So I work a lot across party lines. And if you're interested in a spot, I can talk to the other parties to see if there's spots. We also regularly have speeches in the House. I just did one on the Cowessess decision because both Carney and Polyev came out talking about private property rights, which is true. Property owners have rights, but they're not constitutional rights. Our rights are constitutionally enshrined rights. So I did a speech actually just before I rose. So when there's opportunities, a lot of parties don't use their speaking spots, and then I do a speech in the House, and I work with the community, like the impacted community, on speeches. Like, I'll write the speech, but I work with the community to look over it and kind of give an okay with it. That's another way that we can push it. I'm a very little woman. I'm a leprechaun. I didn't grow. But I'm a Lakota woman. And we have a strong voice. And I think that we can really push this. I think we can really push this, both by using my platform and you going forward using my platform, but also using my platform as the voice in the House. I'm happy to do it. This is a great injustice, and you've waited long enough. So, yeah, thanks.
Hello. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your response. Just to leading up to that, we've had other allies in Parliament, in the federal government, that spoke up for us also, and that's one thing that it seemed like it really didn't move forward yet. But there's stalls and all that kind of stuff, and like members stated that the letter sitting on Carney's desk. What's not when you invite us out there, why can't we have our leadership, or some of our elders there being able to speak in front of the House, to hear our voices from us, not from other people that are supposed to be our allies. I know it's respectful that we appreciate all the help from everybody, but when it comes truly from our own members, that's where you're going to hear the voice of it, and you're going to hear the history of it and why it should be pushed forward. And I'd rather try get it done before something happening before that you guys break for summer, because then this way, by fall time, then this we'll have it done by then if possible. But to get the ball rolling right away would be nice. And to accept your invitation, I recommend that our chief and council take that invitation and also invite some of our seniors to attend along and speak to these members of Parliament, to Carney if possible, and our allies that already spoke for us. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you for coming to our nation. I recently worked on a list of Cowessess First Nation members that are 65 and over, the ones I know. I came up with 162 names, people that are 65 and over. There's others that I don't know. But we've lost 3 seniors in the last month and a half. And it's sad because probably a lot of us are not going to see any dollars from 1907 or cows and plows. Our time on earth here is limited. So it's sad. I started figuring out, trauma first came when Christopher Columbus set foot on Turtle Island. So we got 534 years of trauma. Is it going to take us that long to get 1907? Like, it's sad. Now today we had a meeting about our culture and our language, how we're trying to reclaim that and have it back in our community. Like, our ancestors suffered, through prayers, ceremony. That is why we're here today, because they sacrificed for us. Yes, we lost a lot of land. And the sad part is, and what angers me, is the local white farmers. We've made some of them millionaires off our land. And here we are on this. It makes me angry. We have members living in poverty, kids going hungry on our own land, and here we made millions for the local farmers. Today, a First Nations person can't be a farmer because they can't go to a bank and get a loan because there's no collateral. So I think, be in the positions you are, like you being First Nations, you have an understanding of where I'm coming from. But to educate yourself on how First Nations are so disadvantaged to society in Canada and how we suffer, why there's so much mental health issues, why there's so much addictions, the trauma that we carry. Our children, our grandchildren are suffering. But like I said, a lot of us are not going to see any of that money because our time on earth here is limited, like I said. But I think of how blessed we are to have that many seniors that carry that wisdom, that knowledge. They have that. This morning as I was driving down, I seen that leaves coming out now. And I thought how blessed I am to be able to witness that, to see the beauty of Mother Earth. I always keep Mother Earth in my prayers because she provides everything we need. Most recently, our First Nations, there's 4 of them here. We have bison now on every nation. And I think about the water. The last few days, the 2 nations, neighboring nations, were having issues with water. And I think we need to start preparing ourselves for the hard times. Like we think we're having hard times now, hard times are coming. So I want you to educate yourself as much as you can about First Nations people and how we suffered, the trauma we faced, and where we are today, and trying to fight for what was taken from us, our culture, our language, our ceremonies, and we're trying to revitalize that in our communities, like the bison, our food sovereignty. So you need to look at what happened to us. How did we get where we are today? And it's a sad history. And for me, I know I'm not going to see it in my lifetime, that change, but I'd like for my grandchildren to see that change. So yes, I want to see this 1907 over and done with, because it's causing division, it's causing hurt, it's causing anger amongst our people. And it's us old people that feel that hurt, because that shouldn't be happening. We shouldn't have families going against families over this money thing. We lost a lot. So we really need to look at how can we help our people. We look at our school, was built I don't know how many years ago, but our little ones don't even have air conditioning in that school. This hall was built in 1948. We have side roads that need to be built up. A water system that runs through the whole nation. Like, there's so much we need on our nation. And yet we're still going without. Our kids are suffering in the heat at school. You know, so there's that money can help our nation in so many ways to build it up, to make it a better place for our people. We talk about bringing our children home. What do we bring them home to when there's addictions, when there's poverty, when there's homelessness? So there's a lot of things that money could help our people. And when it finally comes, if I'm still alive, I'd be grateful because it can help a lot of people. Thank you.
I'm a very, very old man. I was here I was born in 1939. I lived through the time while we're very poor. People on the reserve didn't get welfare. They didn't get family allowance. They still had to feed themselves, and there was no birth control pills at the time either. You know, so, but in 1962, I was in Saskatoon, working in Saskatoon. I was a tradesman all my life. I run into one of our elderly people from here, the late Senator Pelchy. At that time, he was working on 07. How long he worked on that, on 07 before 1962, I don't know. But he was in Saskatoon meetings with the government, and at that time, what he wanted, he knew he wasn't going to get. But he asked for, in 62, it was an enormous amount of money. But he figured he'd get about half of what he asked for. I lived in Regina, so I went back to Regina on the weekend. I was all excited. Jesus, Edwin said, we're going to get this. He's just waiting for the government to sign that bill. Now, it's 25-26, and we're still waiting for the government to sign that bill. I recently told the chief in 2050, whoever's chief then will still be waiting for the government to sign that bill. Because 99% of the people in this hall now will all be dead. But myself, being a stubborn old man, I'm going to be here. The NDP, what do you got, 5 seats or 4? 5. A few years ago, you held the balance of government. Negotiations for 07 were going on. NDP never made a move to support that. All they did was keep Trudeau in government. You know, and now you come here and say you want to support '07. It's kind of late, you know, because you had your chance. Now, being only 5 people there, it's just like this water bug on this bug on the floor here. You get squished by the local by the government, because now Kearney doesn't need NDP anymore. You know, you guys wasted your time up in Ottawa by not supporting stuff like this. Now you come here and say you want to support it. That's very annoying to me, you know, because when you held the balance of government, NDP never did a damn thing to support this. Now that you're just a little scrap of paper on the floor, now you say you want to support it? What do you want? You want the support of the native people? You know, it's very annoying to come here and say you're all for this, but then all of a sudden it's only because you're just a little chunk of crumpled up paper on the floor, you know. And that young lady there, she says you're one of the people, one of the Muniashak that she trusts. Well, you be very careful. When I left home in 1957, I worked with the white people all my life. I was in a lot of production meetings, they'd called them. Them people on one side of the table would hear what we wanted them to hear. I was one of them. You know, we tell the people, the owners and the people that were running the outfit, we told them what they wanted to hear. But as soon as we left the room, we'd talk among ourselves and we were totally opposite. So now you're here telling us what we want to hear, but dollar to your donut. When you leave here, as you go down the steps here, it'll just, what you said will just blow away in the wind. You know, because white people, sorry about that, but white people are very, very untrustworthy. They're very cunning. Years ago, an old person said, be careful with them, with the white people. They're very cunning. You know, so, you know, just looking at you, you can look at me and lie to me with a straight face, and you know that I know that you know that you're lying. You know? You know, it's amazing because I lived in the white world all my working life. I got to lie like, as a matter of fact, I got very good training when I went to boarding school. I was brought up by the nuns and priests. I learned how to lie, steal, and cheat. So I really did good when I got out of school and went to work. I was well prepared. You know, but I would advise that young lady to be very careful, you know, because you'll lie to your face just like me looking at you. So you guys have a good day, and thank you people for listening to me. That's my opinion, of course. What it's probably the opinion of a lot of these people. We want 1907 brought forward. And even being a little scrap of paper on the floor, it would be nice if you got one of the MPs to kick it at least. You know, at least if you got a liberal to kick it, he realizes that's with you guys. You know, and I would appreciate that. You know. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stephanie LaValle. I'm a member here, and I also work, at the band, in the band office, as our nation's in-house legal counsel. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit about, what everyone's trying to convey here today, how important this is to our nation, this land claim, because I grew up here with my grandparents, my Mushum and Cookham, and my Mushum farmed. We came from a farming family, and I remember him going out in the fields every morning and helping my Cookham make meals, lunches for the hired men, and then we would go out into the fields looking for them to go feed them. And they loved our land so much, and they passed down that love of their land, of this land, to me, and I love this place. My belly button is hanging in the trees behind my Mushum's house. This means so much to our people, to this whole nation, because of, after we signed Treaty 4, after our ancestors signed Treaty 4, the government decided to put our people here on this land and made us learn how to do agriculture. So when the people got good at doing agriculture, the settlers around here didn't like that. And they took away that land from the people. And the federal government at the time didn't do their fiduciary duty to stop the Indian agents and whoever else was at hand selling off, giving away our land. It was over 20,000 acres. That's a lot of really good land that we gave up. That was taken from us. Sorry, we didn't give it up. It was taken. And we've always had really good grade A soil here. We have the best soil in Saskatchewan. And that's why our 4C Farms does so well today. And now, we concluded, the nation concluded negotiations in December of 2023. And an amount was agreed on. But now it's May 2026. And we've been waiting this long to see that not only reconciliation for our ancestors who were placed here, but for everyone who's alive today and our future generations, our children and our grandchildren. This money is meant to make our lives better. It's meant to make our nation better, to lift us up out of poverty. And like everyone's saying today, our hall is so old. It holds a lot of memories for us. But we deserve new things. We deserve to have infrastructure. And when we hear Carney talking about, sending all this money to Ukraine and talking about, we want to do all these great economic projects with other people in the country or in other countries. Well, what about us? They're leaving us in the dust on our own land. And the money that's been promised is still, there's still nothing happening with that. And we deserve to have that paid out, to have that agreement honored. And it's being withheld, but why? Right? So when you go back to Ottawa, tell them Why are they not paying us out? Why are they withholding this money that they've promised to, you know, our nation? And how do they expect First Nations to become, how do they expect us to be part of the economy and to contribute to the economy, like what Mark Carney is always saying, when they're not going to release any money to help us get there? And having that money withheld, you know, it's starting to look like economic racism. And I'm not saying that it is, but it's starting to look that way. And why? There's no good reason for that. Okay, I think I ran out of things to say, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Can everybody hear me? So my name is Malcolm McPherson, and the reason I'm here today is to speak to Avi, but also at the same time just provide an update to answer the question that's been asked, like what the heck is going on with the 1907 trust? Why is it taking so bloody long, right? If I can just be blunt. And so you have many lawyers, so I'm a lawyer, and one of the things I've been working on is economic development. And I want you to know that your chief and your council, that's why we're here today. That's why there's been some organization. It's to push forward, to marshal forward getting your money, right? It's one of the objectives of today, okay? I'll say I don't have all the answers, but I'll tell you what we've been doing to push for your 1907 trust. Right now, with the federal government, there's other priorities. That's what's going on, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars are going. They're going to Ukraine, right? Every few months, I pick up the paper. No one checks in with me. I don't know why, but anyway, hundreds of millions of dollars out the door. Big contracts. I think Brookfield gets some of those contracts, right? And the other thing is we're seeing a lot of spending on the militarization of the North. There's housing. There's a lot of talk about housing. And I'm not saying those are not important issues. They are important issues. But so is your 1907 trust, right? That's really important. And that's not getting the focus that it requires. And that's why one of the reasons, we've asked Abby to come is just to hear this so that he takes this message to Ottawa. And this is bipartisan, right? Doesn't matter how you vote, right? It's not going to, from your perspective, you want that 1907. And I can tell you, we've engaged a lobbyist. We've been in Ottawa. Your chief has met with many Liberal MPs. And, I'll just say it respectfully, been getting the runaround. And the runaround to a point where there's something else at play, right? There's some real stonewalling that's going on right now. And as far as I can tell, just pragmatically, it means there's other focuses. Your 1907 is just, there's a pile, and it's not being focused. That's as far as I can tell, the truth of this situation. Cowessess isn't asking for anything spectacular. It's been said before. There was a deal. There is a deal. There's a handshake deal that's just been sitting. Right? So the question is, why has it been sitting? It's been sitting for well over a year. It's not the fault of your chief. Your chief has been knocking on those doors, I know, because I help in that space. Right? A lot of MPs, Bucky Bélanger, other ministers, they've been tapped, but there's no answers coming back. And that's a problem. Right? And I'm telling you the obvious, it's a problem. You heard your chief earlier, and you heard your council members earlier talk at length about they want to use the capital, right? You want to be like everybody else, and it's your money, right? I'll say that, and you know what? I'm just going to sort of wrap it up with what I think I see coming. And if I could put it plainly, there's an iceberg ahead, okay? And The Carney government's moving at full speed on major project development while neglecting existing financial and legal commitments to First Nations, to your 1907 trust. Okay? This is a real structural risk to projects, to investment certainty, and to Canada's broader economic objectives. These processes must move together, and one cannot outrun the other. So in closing, okay, Cowessess is ready. The opportunity is real. There isn't already an agreement in place. And it's time for Canada to honor those commitments and get your 1907 paid. Thank you.
And I just want to say, Malcolm is our economic development lawyer for CVL. And so he has been working with the CVL board in order to get those high-level economic development. Al and Dan are still our 1907 lawyers. And we will have Al and Dan. And so just Cowessess Ventures Limited. And that's our economic development arm. And right now, to go into that economic piece, like I had said in other meetings, right now with the Carney government, when it was back in the Trudeau government, it was more about the honor of the crown. And it was about righting those wrongs. You heard today from people who have been there for a while. You had heard from people who've been there a while. This is the most conservative liberal government that there has been. It's about having to pivot, about going from what we know and what's in our hearts about this being an honor of the crown and us being wrongs done to us, to how the government is looking at that piece where what are they going to get out of it, as ridiculous as that sounds. And so the only way that we have been able to even get into some doors, and even the PMO's office, has been to talk about what we are going to do with that money. So that is where we have been working on those high level where we, as soon as we get that money, that we will be able to look at that economic piece where we can not be passive investors. Because right now, even with CVL, if they use our name, we might get $125,000 a year, $150,000, because we're an Indigenous partner. Maybe we'll get a few jobs, that kind of thing. But we are not active partners, as in putting in what the mainstream world understands, which is that money into those investments and that leverage to be used. And that is the way that we are turning it politically, and even getting in those doors is because we're talking about how we're going to walk and not only right the wrong that was done to us, but how we're going to walk together to make Canada stronger while Canada makes us as Cowessess stronger. It's not maybe what we want to hear. Do we think it's fair? No. But it's the reality of where we are at right now. If we wait for them to do the right thing, as Uncle Dennis was saying, he's been waiting since 1962, I think he said, for the government to do the right thing. They haven't done the right thing. The greatest chance that we have right now is to know where their interest is and to get them where that interest is. In order for us to get that advance payment, that settlement of the 1907, that payment plan or whatever it is, to make sure that first and foremost, and anyone will tell you this, every time I've gone to Ottawa, every time I've talked to somebody, it has always been about getting our seniors paid before anybody else. That has to be the first thing that we do. But in that, we have to play that game. You talked about the cunning of the white man, Uncle Dennis, and I believe in that too. That's the game that we're trying to play, is that cunning of the white man in order to get what we need to do and get it done. And they want economic prosperity. We're trying to show how we are going to be partners and help them get that economic prosperity while we get that wealth as well, that financial wealth. We're playing that game. We played the Trudeau game where we were the good Indians. That didn't get us anywhere or very far. This government doesn't care if we're the best Indians in the world. They want to know what they can get, what is in it for them. And the closest that we can get right now in order to complete that 1907 is to have them understand that we can be, with this great amount of money, we can actually be partners where we don't get that little piddly $125 a year just because they use us, but that we have millions upon billions that come in. And so you ask, okay, well, what's this guy doing here? It's because he has that national. He was part of the Blueberry case. He is part of Cowessess. He was part of all of those big bands that made multi-million dollars in their ec-dev. So he has those ins and outs, and that's where he's been. He has been incredibly respectful of our 1907 lawyers, and they have a job to do, and they're doing it. But on that other hand, when we're talking about getting ready and what that message that we have to be, we are looking at it from all of these angles in the best way that we can, to be the smartest that we can, to be in position to get what's done. So while we have groups that are like politicking and doing what they're doing, really the drivers right now in Ottawa is economic development, that economic stream, that building that money, building that independence for Canada. It's not the do-gooders over here that just want to do the right thing. It's about what is in it for me. And so we are trying to show, if you finish this claim, this is what's in it for you, but also how it's going to benefit us. And our first thing and every single one of our council, I know, has been very, very clear about this. Our seniors and our elders come first. And that is the one thing that we can agree on. But we have to get to that line. And I am doing everything that I can in every different aspect around in order to do that. It is, quite frankly, these are wonderful people, I can tell. I've been fighting for women and children, pretty much my whole life. I could tell that's a sister in arms. Actually, the way she talks, it's almost like listening to Bernie Williams, And yes, and so why are they here? It's purely political. Can they do much for us if they were in government? No, but also people who walk to this side can also walk back. And then who will they be looking for if they're missing 1 or 2 or 3 seats? The fellows with 5 seats. We were there in the fall of 2024. And I don't mean to throw shade, Avi, but if your predecessor did not rip up that agreement with the Liberal government, our claim, I believe, would be done. Because when that agreement was, we were in that fall budget. We were in that fall budget to get paid out on our 1907. And then he ripped up that paper. And then we had the resignation of the Prime Minister. Then we had the proroguing of government. And then we had an election. And then we entered into the most conservative Liberal government that there possibly could ever be, and the longest transition I have ever seen for a government to get into place. So we are jaded. We are completely jaded. My Mushum too was a land user, a veteran, gave almost his life. We lived with PTSD. They called it shell shock. That's what has been what we have gotten as good treaty partners. Not very much. And so today, if you hear our frustration, if you hear that it's hard for us to trust anybody, that's our truth and that's our reality. And so we ask you to be that good ally. We believe that you will be that good ally. We know our sister here will hold your feet to the fire. We will do whatever we can, but we are tired of waiting because every day that money is not paid out to us, that claim is not completed, is money that we have lost in moving our nation forward. And so it's about economics for us, because the only time and only place we're going to reach independence is when we have that economic independence. And that's why it's so important to not only have that honor of the crown fulfilled, that part about what they did wrong, that's absolutely right. And that is strong in our minds. But unfortunately, it's not strong in their minds. They're about, what can I get from you guys? So if we tell them we're going to use them like they're using us, again, I'm going to use you, Uncle Dennis, when you said, I can see you, see me to see you. That's the same thing with us there, is that I'm seeing them use us for us to use them in this way. So we are getting ready on this side, because right now it's about economics. And so we do have the lawyers that are working on this to get all of this stuff done over here, but we also have to be completely ready all over here. And that's the importance of being ready and having that cunning of the white man, like we were told, that two-eyed seeing also that has evolved from that. And we are trying our best to get all of that moving forward. So I warned Avi. I said, you know, you're the first guy who's come to see us. You're going to probably get a lot of flack. And he said, okay, I know. I know that I am. You're going to hear our frustration. And he said, yes, I will hear the frustration. But that frustration that he hears today, he can talk about that, get it done, and how we can work together. And so, that was really the wrong word, and I apologize. That was my word about stories. I didn't mean tell the stories as in what is going to harm you. I mean how it has impacted us collectively and individually in not having that 1907 done. But I tell you right now, I would not be doing the job of your chief, and I know that there's varied opinions about that. But the one thing that I do know is I know that other world, and I know what matters to them. And so I'm trying to balance what we do here while knowing exactly what the world is out there and what they want from us in order to get this done. And that's what I'm trying my very best to do. So we are looking at it multi-layered all over the place. And it has, thank you, Auntie Ronalee, because you are my aunt. Thank you for saying that. There's been so much. This is what happens when government also continues on with their genocide, because not completing our 1907 is genocide. We are turning on each other. We are blaming each other. We are hating on each other. Our kinship ties, everything has been eroded. We need to have this completed. It is very, very important to us. And it's more so important to us as younger people to make sure, and I was given the permission. I was given the permission when I was sitting with our elders in Regina to tell this story. The story was that elder, who is actually very sick right now, all she wants in this world is to be able to have the ability to go into a store and buy whatever she wants without looking at the price tag. That's all she wants. That's something that many Canadians take for granted. More so as we go through the years, less and less Canadians, but still a lot of Canadians. Our elders have never had that opportunity to go into a store and not have to penny pinch and try to make 5 cents on the dollar worth to feed their families. So it's not only about righting a wrong, it's about survival. It's about meeting the needs of families every day and hopefully having enough to enjoy a little bit of it. And while that's happening on an individual level, on a macro level and a collective level, we're working on that economic development and those big things. So, enough waxing poetic, Erica. But it's so important to us. And anyone else want to express whatever you want to express, because that's what he's here for. Auntie Audrey? This is the...
This 1907 claim that we have, it was the government that took our land away and was given or sold to the white settlers coming in. Well, they all came in and they all made fortunes of money on this land. And now that they've retired and are millionaires, we're buying their land back, which now we have to put we gotta we have to put in this we have to what do we put in the land to make it grow? Yeah, that's fertilizer I was thinking of. That now we have to put into fertilizer to get the crops to grow. So now that we're buying the land back, it's costing us more than what they made the millions off it. Now we're trying to bring it back. And it's time the government pays up. They took it, they sold it, or whatever they did with the settlers. Now we're buying it back, and it's land that's not good. It's not good anymore, you know. So it's time for the government to pay our 1907 claim. We've waited long enough, you know. I worked all my life. I just quit working a year ago, not even a year ago. I'm 76 years old. I had to work that many years to keep our house going, you know. It's time that people benefit from this 1907. That's all I got to say.
My name is Leona DeLorme, and I was working in 1966, and I worked for, that time Trudeau was coming in. We had Trudeau mania. And when I retired after many years of toil, the best government that I worked for was with the Liberals. We had the NDP, but I worked mostly with the Liberals. I liked how they were, and they treated me well. That's all. I never knew much about 1907 till I married my husband, Dennis. And then they were all talking about this big bucks that they were going to get, but it hasn't developed yet. I don't know if it ever will in my lifetime. I hope my children will enjoy it if it comes. But for me, I'm 82 years old, and I don't know how much longer I have to spend on this earth. So hopefully it'll come soon, and if you can do something, I hope and pray that you will. I thank you.
New chief and council come in, so they have to start all over again. They have to start from the bottom.
Okay, that's a little bit of a. Now I'm gonna sound like the white guy in my answer. Sorry, Avi. Is that necessary? Sorry. I don't believe so. Now, the one caution that we have gotten from Al and Dan has been that it has been over 3 years since we had the handshake deal. And so what they're saying is that they feel that we're almost to the point to have to renegotiate again for the amount that we lost in these last 3 years. But our council are not, we haven't said yes or anything else. So if Al and Dan, like right now, like they're doing a very good job, and they did a very good job in negotiating. We don't believe that it will. In fact, we hope that with this pressure that we're applying, plus also really trying to move on that economic development front, that there's still hope for us to complete it in the next few months. So that's what we're saying. And also what we're also working on is getting a letter from the government to say that if we start on our cows and plows, that amount that they handshook with us is not going to get affected. And so if that happens, that we're able to get that letter and confirm that we would not face any penalty, or that they wouldn't try and renegotiate after that, then we can also move forward potentially on our cows and plows. So we're looking at all aspects to that. And so it still rests with the people in power. And that's why we need as much people in the House to keep on raising that voice. That's why. So I can't give you a complete answer, but I also know that for whatever they've agreed to, if we don't go back to renegotiate, I would assume the new chief and council will still be at that place. But hopefully we won't be. I don't believe that it would ever go to that place unless that chief and council sitting has decided to go back to renegotiate.
Hi there. Welcome to Cowessess. My name is Mary. I live in the urban city of Regina. I just have a comment to make. I've heard of this 1907. I was born in 1962, and I've heard of it maybe well into my 20s and stuff, and it hurts me because our people have been talking about it for a long time, and a lot of our people are leaving. A lot of our elders are are going on ahead of us. and it just breaks my heart because they're not able to, see this 1907 claim that was our land that was taken by the government. And it just hurts my heart because they're not here to see that fulfillment of the payment coming to them and stuff. And so, they're gone on ahead, yes, but that like there's nothing for them anymore. They're gone, the families are affected by it, and I'm sure, like my parents, they're gone, right? And they've been talking about it, and there's still nothing. So I'll be 64 this year, but it hurts my heart for our people because it's just like it's stalled, and there's so much negativity amongst families that I see. And we're kind, humble people. But this is just kind of dividing us as a peoples, right? So I just wanted to comment that it's really affecting my heart and my family. So, and I wish you safe travels home, safe travels on your journey as you go across our beautiful Canada. So, and thank you for coming.
He's making his own joke. Do you want to tell your joke, Counselor? He's also my uncle. The buffalo one. When are you going to hear? I'll set him up. Why do you hope the 1907 comes? How long have you been around?
Now I'm saying I've been around since the buffalo disappeared. But now the buffalo are back, so I hope we get something.
We always try to have a little bit of humor because we're all family in the end. So thank you all for coming. Avi, do you want to have the last words, and as well as Leah?
I won't take up more time. I just would say thank you. The frustration and the anger is so real, and you've delivered it with such gentleness and kindness. You don't have to be so gentle, but thank you.
I do like this guy, I'm just saying. But I just want to say that it's really a privilege to be here. We're going to follow up right away. In fact, if people can, if you can sit around, we've heard some actions that can take place. It's good if we if you have 5 minutes after the meeting, if we could sit around to organize next steps. And one of the reasons why I endorsed Avi was because I wanted a leader that would be unapologetic in standing up as a good ally with Indigenous peoples. And he's been doing that for years prior to being elected. And so he has a history, so that when I have to take positions, that he's not fighting against me on it. My nation is also in the same situation in the way that we're trying, we never surrendered, but it looks like, there's negotiations with the Dakota, Lakota, Nakota nations to have a final settlement, and they're also sitting on our final settlement. as well. It's not right. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. It's healing to be around so many elders, to share your wisdom and stories. We have hard stories, but I just feel that love and strong spirit and not resilience, but resistance. And it makes me feel stronger to go back and do well by all of us. So thank you very much. Thank you to the chief and council, elders, everybody in the community. Thank you also to the leader and the leadership team. You've been tasked, and I know that you carry that with commitment. So thank you as well. Thank you, everybody. I love it here. It's so nice to be home. I'm going to shove a piece of bread in my mouth again, Broadway bread.